Building in modern Minecraft is not that difficult. I mean, with the amount of like trapdoors, buttons, even fence gates you can use in your builds, it's not that difficult. And with the variety of blocks you have, like these two are separate blocks. You can make tons of textures and tons of gradients. I mean, for goodness sakes, these are two separate blocks. You could have me fooled. These look identical. But it hasn't always been like this. It hasn't always been in a way that I could whip this up in a matter of minutes. I did, in fact, it took me about 10 minutes. It's not always been like this. So, for today's video, I wanted to go back in time to old Minecraft, specifically 1.4.7, and see what I could build. Because I think that it's going to be a lot more difficult than you think. Trapdoors can't stand alone like this, either. It's going to be a difficult build challenge, but I think I'm up for it. Before I start building anything in 1.4.7, I want to mention that I've put many hundreds of hours into refining my build style. So if you can't do what I can do, that's okay. Because it really does take a lot of practice to get a good build together. But with that being said, let's get into this 1.4.7 world. Well, it does appear that we're going to be able to go to 1.4.7 as it crashed instantly, so we're probably going to have to try a different version, and I'll let you know exactly that version very soon. So welcome friends to Minecraft 1.0, a version so old it doesn't even have a full screen option as far as I can tell, so let's hop into a 1.0 world in creative and build up our beautiful house. Immediately I noticed shimmering on this mountain, which is not in modern Minecraft, which is very cool, but when you fly around and find a good spot, I don't even have a skin. We're gonna find a good spot to build this build. So immediately I see this really cool mountain and I think we could work with it. Obviously when I say really cool, it's very relative because it is Minecraft 1.0. But I want to try to build a mountain base up here. So let's get a block palette in. So I've put together possibly the only gradient possible to put together in this game version, which is dark wool, cobblestone, stone, light gray wool, and clay. Obviously this will be the bottom and this will be the top, so let's get a skeleton of the build going. Now I think I have a good general idea of how I want to build this base. I want a 4 square layout with one of these two being the entrance and these two being the main base. So let's put this together with some proper building strategy, such as these are all called wood. I'm sorry, I'm in a bit of shock, but we're gonna grab some wood and build up the proper skeleton for our build. And no time lapses for today. I couldn't get land to work. Like it doesn't exist as far as I can tell. So I can't use my time-lapse account, so there's no horizontal wood place. That's uh-oh. So at this point in the build, I was clearly in a bit of shock. I did not expect this build to be so much more difficult than, well, I expected. The variety of blocks that just didn't exist, like all the sideways blocks, really posed a big challenge, but I pushed through and... Oh my gosh, slabs can't be placed on the top half. Not on their own. That is... Oh my gosh, this is a lot more challenging than I thought. So much more difficult. So I'm going to start building up the wall of this using the gradient I picked out, and that will begin with all of this, and we're going to want to sprinkle it a little bit like this. It's very mindless on how you do gradients properly, but I think that's going to look awful if I keep the dark gray wool in, so let's cut out the dark gray wool and build this up again. Oh, I can't say that this gradient looks as good as I was expecting it to. Like, in premise it looked pretty good, but in practice, I don't think it worked out very well, but we're gonna stick with it since that is kind of the point of the challenge, overcome the problems of old Minecraft. So let's get on to the next part, which I want a balcony up here, which already I'm struggling with. That did not take very long. So we're gonna take our stairs and, oh, I suspected as much. You can't place them upside down. We're gonna use some... Oh, jeez. This version of Minecraft is so primitive, there isn't even different kinds of wood. Of planks, rather. It's just oak planks. Which is worrying for the likelihood of making a good-looking build here. But I'm gonna keep working and hoping for the best. Now, I'm using these pistons as a sort of fence to prevent people from falling out, which means I'm actually going to cut out this cube and make it a sort of patio for this build. So, let's get to work on that little piece. Oh my gosh, the middle click doesn't exist. I can't click on an item to get it. This is awful. So I've made a couple modifications. First of all, this window has been added, and it actually wasn't as bad as I thought. There was plenty of resources to make a nice window frame, even though it's not as good as what I could do in modern Minecraft. That was easy. The hard part was this roof for the patio thing. It was very difficult, as, you know, no upside down slabs and no upside down stairs. So I had to, you know, take some liberties on what I could call a good looking build like this for these fences. And lastly, I've made this downstairs area and an entrance, which has not been decorated at all yet, but it is there. Now next up, I'm going to add a little bit more detail. It turns out this fence gate trick that I use in modern Minecraft still works. Just doesn't look quite as good. For whatever reason, it probably is the older textures not looking quite as good. But that looks fairly darn good. Let's keep that. But I also have these fences, which, when I checked here, they still work perfectly as they do in modern Minecraft. So let's add that like that. Now that's some pretty good detailing for this wall, and this window looks actually pretty good. All you do is add a nice looking roof. So this actually ended up looking a lot better than I was expecting it to, but it still is not as anywhere near as good as something I could do in modern Minecraft. So here I've done my best to build a bit of an archway on the entrance to the patio up here, and I honestly think this build is coming out pretty well. And one side note, yeah, I can't do anything about this but sleep, so it is the old-fashioned way. Is this before beds? It looks like I can't do anything. No, there is beds. Okay. Such a derp. For a moment there, I was scared. I need to deal with this as well. Oh my god, they can explode in creative mode. Oh my god, that was so scary. I almost lost the build. I almost lost access to a big chunk of this build. So, last thing we need to do, a nice roof here. Now I want to show you something here. This trick is still possible in this old version, which is fascinating to me, using this to hold up the trapdoor. So you could still build these old windows, or the old? You could still build these new windows in modern, or that I build in modern Minecraft, in old Minecraft, which is very cool to me. So, without further ado, I should actually start working on the roof rather than detailing a little bit more. Even though I will be detailing a little bit more, I'm very happy with the amount of work, and I'm very happy with how this looks, because, you know, it's very cool that it is actually possible to build something half decent in old versions. But the one problem is there's not very much variety. Like, this is possibly the only build palette you can really go with without being really crazy with it, without using some very interesting blocks. But we have some leaves to put in and a roof to put in to finish this build. Roof completed, and I need to fill in this inner spot with something. And if you look on the inside, it doesn't look too bad. So let's get our two materials, which is clay and light gray wool. And there we go. So we filled this in. It still looks plain. I want to do something with it. But let's work on the interior a little bit, as the interior is a little bit messy. So let's start by filling in this a little bit. Roof filled in, and we have a very functional house. Now we have figured out a nice way to light the area up, but our options are very scarce. We have the jack-o'-lantern, we got the glowstone, and we got the torch. That's actually the redstone torch, as I don't think it counts. And those are our options. I can't think of anything else, so I think it's safe to remove the jack-o'-lantern from the question. But it's not impossible to make a chandelier in this version. So let's start by dropping this down and putting glowstone. And we're gonna hang... Let's round this off with some red fences like that. And hang down our lanterns. And there we go. Not the most fancy not the most fancy chandelier I could possibly build, but it is as good as I could probably do. And I think it looks pretty good for the version of the materials we are given. However, we're still going to use some torches since, you know, it's kind of necessary. For the exterior lighting, I'm going to just use torches on these fences like this. And that looks fairly good and fairly well lit up. For this room, I think glowstone on... I didn't mean to break that block, but on the edge of the room. Like that. I think we're gonna replace this like this. And there we go. Now we have a fairly well lit up interior, other than the balcony, and honestly, torch, 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 torch. And it's just that simple. We also have signs available for detailing, and we're gonna have doors. And of course, we do want this house to be accessible. Whoa, what? 1.0 doors are wonky. Now I'm gonna build up this interior wall a little bit. So I am now breaking this down a little bit so that I can replace this wall with a proper wall that matches the rest of the build. So now I finished this wall, and I've also reworked this floor to have it actually outlined by the glowstone. But now I think it's time we fix this wall, and then we can work on some interior a little bit. So there we go, we've got a fully functional looking wall, but it is very plain, so I think it's about time we do a little bit of interior decorating. We have enchant tables available, we have bookshelves, and we have fences, so we have everything we really need to build a beautiful interior for this build. And also the skeleton outdoors is being very loud and annoying. Will you please shut up with that loudness? There you go, now you don't exist. I forgot about peaceful. My first thing I want to do on the interior is working on a little bit of a mini cave in this wall, since I think it would look nice. So I've built this beautiful little mini cave inside, and by beautiful I mean it's the best I can do in this version. I guess I could put in some vines. Hold on a second. And vines done. And now we can actually get into work on other parts of the interior. So obviously this is a very nice aesthetic thing, but every base needs its functional stuff. Oh my god, that's cool. What? Crazy. That's a crazy model spot. So, before we put anything together, let's make a second floor. Alright, so I've changed up the plan. No new floor, just a tiny bit of work. I just want to make this window easily accessible just so you can look out like this. And now we got a window view like this. And let's make the stairs look a little bit better, even though you can't do upside down stairs. That looks a little better. I'm gonna put a fence here, and now we have this little nook up here where I'm going to put down a chair. And now let's put down a bit of a bookshelf like this. And then we want it to hold up like that. And we will put down a chair, a classic chair design. Let's put it here with the stairs and 2 signs like this. And that's the classic chair. So you can now sit here and read. And lastly, enchanting table. So you can have the actual book right here. And now we have this wonderful little nook. Oh wait, no, I changed my mind. Enchanting table there. And now you can sit here and you have this wonderful little nook with your book. Now we need to put down the actual essentials for a base. We can't have a bed on glowstone. Bed. Chest, 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 chest. No chests here, so crafting tables, chest, 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 chest. Perfect. You have your bed and all of your necessary storage. Next, cauldron. I think it's a nice looking thing. And we can put a brewing stand right next to it. Every base needs some furnaces. And this looks like a very nice spot for them. And now, lastly, chairs on the patio. You can count me disappointed. In the absence of flower pots, we can use some paintings. So, let's put one here, and done. Beautiful little painting. I think this area could also use something. Maybe here. And same thing. And there we go. We have a window, and we have this. But I have one last thing I want to do, and that's some greenery. You all know how much I love my greenery. So let's work on that. There we go, we've got one vine thing. There we go, our second vine's in. Now let's work on actual vines on it. I think that might be enough, although this side is looking a little barren. Let's do that a little bit. Let's get a final tour of the house. So we're gonna walk up these stairs, guarded by these fences, and enter the house, where we get straight into the main area with all of our furnaces, and all of our chests, and our bed, our crafting tables, and our cauldron, which is kind of useless at this point in the game, and our brewing stand. If we go up the stairs, we have this little patio with 2 seats, where you can look out on the beautiful view of the swamp, and the lake over here, and behind you, there's this little cave, just to look nice. And if you turn around and walk up these stairs, you'll get to the nook, where you have a book, and plenty of extra books in case you get bored, right next to the chandelier. Of course, we have some paintings to spice up the area, and it's not the biggest house, but it's a nice house. I hope you all have enjoyed this view of Minecraft 1.0 and what building used to be, and I hope you have gotten the same appreciation for old builds as I have since 1.12, or the so-called 2012 build style looks like it because you didn't have as many options. I always thought that the reason that 2012 builds look bad is because everyone was at a lower standard of building, but it's really not. It's way more to do with how the older game feels and just plays differently. So, I hope you have appreciated this build, and I hope you enjoyed. So, if you liked the video, subscribe, all those things, shoot, and make sure to try this out yourself. It was a lot of fun to try, and I think you could also get some fun out of it. So, if you have enjoyed, see ya! I can't say I expected this to be as long as it was, but if you got to the end, thank you. It was very fun to make. So, I have a lot more of these kind of videos planned, so watch out for those.